Welcome to another episode of Tales from the Tables with your host, Rob Bradley,
John Charles Ciccarelli,
James Burrows,
and Damien Hallwood.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 42 of Tales from the Tables. Ooh, welcome back. September
42. Woo!
How did the summer go? It was like here for like a minute, and then it just vanished.
It's gone. Yeah, what summer?
People think I'm crazy. I am so happy it's autumn. I love this time of year, man. I love it.
Do you know what, Damien? I'm exactly the same. I love the build up to Halloween. I love, like, my partner and I, Charlotte, we do this thing every year. We try and watch The Shining on
Yes.
I emphasize the word try. We literally sit down and start watching it, and as soon as that music starts and you see their car driving towards the hotel, we both just look at each other and go, let's watch something else.
For context listeners, both Damien and Rob are wearing their black jumpers. Like, they are immediately in autumn mode right now. This is hilarious. Yep.
It's like 3 degrees here where I am in, like, Oxfordshire. I woke up, I was like,
Jeez.
I had to put the heating on.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Full on the heating.
Wild.
On. Christ.
It's a little bit warmer up here, but that sounds backwards. That sounds backwards. It should be warmer your way.
And New York, it's not too bad. It's chilly. It's a bit breezy, but it's not yet. I don't know the conversion yet. I've never been good with Celsius, but it's getting chillier. You can feel it in the air.
So Fahrenheit, you take away 30 and then you divide by 2.
I have heard this before. Yeah. So what we're probably around like the high 50s right now. So I'd probably say about 58. So take away 32 and divide it by 2. Is that the thing?
Take away 30 and then divide whatever's left by 2.
Okay. So like 16?
16
probably be 16, 17, something like that.
Spring.
I haven't stepped outside just yet, but something like that.
That's about right, I suppose, for this sort of time of year. So that's basically how warm it should be here right now, but it's not. It's
all right.
It's horrendous. God, look at us talking about the weather. Oh,
I know, on a gaming podcast.
Yeah, we should be indoors. We shouldn't care about the weather. There's no weather.
Right.
You're playing games. Okay, how you guys been? Good week so far? I say so.
Yeah,
far.
not bad.
Yeah, real good. Yeah. I've got. Yeah. It's been. I think this is the first week I've had all my 3 regular games in a week due to a couple of
nice
sessions we couldn't do. So I think this has been the first full 3-session week, which has been great to be back on all that.
Very cool. Very D&D heavy. I like it.
Awesome.
And home game this weekend too. So
or TTRPG heavy.
Have you done all 3? Is it tonight's Fallout, right?
Tonight's Fallout, yeah.
Right.
And you do Vecna on Tuesday? And Odyssey of the Dragon Lords on Monday.
Yeah.
Sweet. So you got like a Wednesday gap.
Yes, yeah. Wednesday, I do a day job on Wednesday.
How dare you?
I know. It's a busy old week. But I love it. So all 3 games are popping off. It's a lot of fun. So.
Nice.
I have Vecna on Mondays, and then I have a private group, the Spectarium folk, which we've talked about, on Tuesdays. Wednesdays is my real world quote unquote job. Thursdays I have another private group, and Fridays is a home game. So, and then Saturdays is the Wayfinder. So I'm like, it's game. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, wow. Your dice must be like weathered.
Yeah. They no longer have any defined edges. My D20 looks more like just a ball instead of an actual polyhedron at this point.
Brilliant. Well, you may have gathered, listeners, we don't have James here today. He's actually sick. I think he was partying so much for his birthday last week that he's just like got himself into this state of craziness. Or maybe he had some like cursed birthday cake or something. I don't know.
Oh gosh,
apparently it's not very well.
That's a good one. We should do that. Cursed birthday cakes in our games. It's like, oh, you're playing a birthday game. Congrats! Here's a cursed mimic cake. Have at it.
That'd be fun, wouldn't it? No, I've never put cursed items in any of my games.
Really?
Actually, if you think about it, the tradition of putting a dancer or a stripper or something inside the giant cake, right? For a stag do.
Yeah.
Watch what the mystery being a giant cake arrives for the stag do, and when they cut it open, there's no stripper inside because the mimic ate it. Oh God, that'd be ridiculous. Sorry, bad ideas. Starring JC.
A mint cake. What film is it from? Where they? Oh, it's Addams Family. Addams Family 2, is it? Where they bring out the cake and they've
I think so.
Actually baked the cake with the stripper inside.
Yeah, that does ring a bell. It might be that. Yeah.
He's getting married, isn't he? And it is Addams Family 2. They were great films, Addams Family.
They were a lot of fun. Yeah. Christopher Lloyd, man, what a classic. And what was the name of the actor who played the dad?
Oh, do you know what? I can't remember.
I don't remember. I loved him though.
I know he committed suicide. I know that, the actor.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's brilliant actor. Like his Gomez for me is just like the best.
Is it Julia?
Yeah. Yes. He played Bison as well, right? In the
M. Bison.
M. Bison
Street Fighter
in the film. Yeah. Yep.
Characters couldn't be more different.
I know. Over the top.
Bizarre casting, because like I thought M. Bison was like this, like I suppose. Well, I don't know. I think that whole entire film was just like mental. In fact, they had Jean-Claude Van Damme playing the American GI guy. What's his name?
Is it Johnny?
Don't ask me. I've actually never seen it.
Johnny Cage?
No.
That's Mortal Kombat, right? Street Fighter is who's the guy? I don't know.
Oh, what was his name? Guile.
Oh yeah, Guile. I hear legions of nerds shouting at us through the airwaves, being like, "It's Guile." Yeah, but I've never seen it. I hear it's really like one of those like '90s timeless weird classics that is necessary viewing.
It just seems like a joke.
Yeah, the whole time.
I can't imagine a director directing that and just like knowing that what he's producing is worthy of his time. You know what I mean? Like here I'm creating a piece of artwork, but it's just this video game movie. I think what happened in the 90s definitely, and certainly with like the superhero genre as well. It just got to a point where they were just hiring directors who would just do the job so they could make a film, so they could sell the toys, and then just get out of there and then that was that, right? And it was like, and they missed the whole point as to why the toys were popular for Batman, the original movie. I know there wasn't any toys for Superman the movie. There wasn't any merchandise as such that came out, but those original superhero movies from the 80s and early 80s and late 80s were incredible. Like the Batman film that came out with Tim Burton's Batman was just amazing, and it was a 15, and yet it had toy merchandise. Yeah, it was a 15 like rated movie.
I had all the not all. I had quite a collection of the Kenner Alien figures. I mean, those movies were hard 18s, and they released a whole line of figures of Ripley and Vasquez and Bishop and all the aliens.
Wow.
Aliens that had different animal themes, like the rhino alien and the mantis alien, and they had toys for everything. Because
that's really cool. I never got any alien toys. I want that.
They were awesome. Check them out.
There's a really funny YouTube video of this of a local TV network in America interviewing dads coming out of cinemas with their young boys, with their kids, having watched Alien. And
gosh,
they're interviewing them, and it's so funny. Like one dad's like, "Yeah, well, I think it's really important because that could happen. That could happen, and he needs to know that that could happen." The boy's just like, high heaven about this like Like, what the fuck? It's like that android alone is carrying.
I was gonna say, yeah, even all of that, like, son, that's why you never trust anyone at the dinner table. One of them could be full of milk and be a talking head at the end of it as something bursts out of it. Jeez,
So dark. So dark.
it's amazing.
Great video. I have to try and find it and share it with you guys because it's
Real-
You have a pretty good American accent there, Rob.
Do I?
Yeah.
Right, real quick on
Passable.
Superman.
Yes.
If you're a fan of Superman and you haven't seen, there is a movie coming out which is the Christopher Reeve story.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
And
big.
Yeah. Saw the trailers for it.
Just the trailer alone, I was
Oh,
welling
yeah,
up. I was
Yeah,
struggling.
almost in tears.
Yeah.
Yeah, jerking all the way through it. I was like,
What an incredible guy.
I know.
like,
Yeah.
awful what happened to him, poor guy. But yeah,
And it could, of all the different things he did, of all the different sports and the activities that he was involved in, just one bad day on a horse. That's all it takes.
yeah,
How it can change a life, you know?
yeah, absolutely. Harrowing
Wild.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any superhero RPGs? There must be.
There are, yeah. There's some.
any
There's a
good?
few. I've never really. I mean, there is a Marvel one now, which I'm desperate to. I've got a PDF of, and I just haven't cracked it to read it because I'm a big Marvel head. But there's a few. There's one I really like called Masks, which uses the Cypher system, which has got a really great 80s hook to it, which is that each of the player characters find themselves inextricably drawn to mundane items around the house or in the street because of some weird effect. And when they collect all the items, they craft them into a mask. And when they put the mask on, they transform into a proper sort of manifestation of their superhero alter ego.
That's cool.
It's a really great little sort of 80s vibe hook.
Yeah. It almost feels very Mask without the like drawn to
Yeah.
certain
Yeah.
items apart from that.
Yeah, and it's
There's
very,
also I don't know why, but it makes me think of Freakazoid for some reason.
yeah.
Did you guys watch Freakazoid, Rob?
Yeah.
You?
I know of it. I've never seen it. No.
It was one of my favorite cartoons because I didn't really grow up with TV, but Freakazoid I'd catch on occasion at my cousin's, and it was basically the story of a kid who was a computer nerd and got sucked into the computer and into cyberspace, and his alter ego came pouring out of it, which was this blue-skinned, zappy-haired Freakazoid with a red suit he was basically Deadpool. Like, let's not mince about it. He was very meta. He broke the fourth wall. He had meta commentary. He could do basically anything, and he would just drive all of the villains crazy by being over the top. And that was his whole shtick. It was such a 90s Deadpool-esque sort of vibe, and it was, but kid-friendly, and it was so funny.
It's called Freakazoid.
And yeah, Freakazoid. It was, and they had a banging theme song. It was so catchy.
Yes, I did used to watch this. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I loved it.
If you ever catch like just a few clips of it on YouTube or something, you're like, what? It's hilarious. You're like, what? This was for kids? What did they do? It's amazing.
There was loads of shit like that. Like Ren and Ren and Stimpy's left a scar. Like, I remember watching that as a kid. This is like, and we used to have it on Channel 4 on a 6 o'clock in the evening. And it was like, because they must have just thought, oh, it's a cartoon, it's for kids. And you watch it and it's like, this is not for kids. It's so dark.
Pinky in the Brain. Just the
I was going to say Pinky in the Brain. And even things out of that were considered more adult animation, but kids still watched because it was animation. South Park, Simpsons later on, right? Like these shows that we grew up on that had a lot of adult humor.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
But on that note,
so there's a Marvel RPG. Is there? Who's the publisher? Do you know?
Marvel. It's Marvel Multiverse, I think it's called.
Yeah, that's relatively new, right? Because it was. I think the only one I knew of was Masks for a while.
Not been around for a while.
Marvel Multiverse role-playing game, core rulebook.
There's quite a lot of books, as you would expect already. There's the X-Men supplement, the Spider-Verse supplement.
Cool.
There's quite a few.
Stan Lee is like, what a guy. You know, he was literally like basically forced to create superheroes. I think it's a superhero every month or something like that.
Wow. Yep. He had to keep on inventing new things.
New things, yeah.
Crazy.
Boy, did he.
Yeah. Or did he?
It's like that it's like that Key and Peele skit where I don't know if you guys have seen it, but one of them, I think Jordan Peele plays Stan Lee, but the aged Stan Lee, and he's at a board meeting in Marvel flipping an easel to show his new character concepts for superheroes, but they all are superheroes with extremely mundane powers to help old people, like the maid who can clean up the mess and actually answer when he calls her and stuff like that. And the whole board is like, oh, this is really cringe. Stan, we got to retire you. I think this was all pre-mortem, so it was in taste when it came out. But yeah, it was that he had so many different concepts for different stereotypes of like people that help the elder generation. It was ridiculous. It was a good skit, though.
I got a question for you both, right? If you could get away with convincing the world that you have a superhero superpower, right? That like a fantastical superpower, like flying or being able to turn invisible, but it's like something like you just said there, GC, like something that's mundane, but you could be like, yeah, this is my superpower. This is the thing I could definitely say what this is. Like it could be anything. What would yours be, and why?
I have to think about that.
I'll go first.
You have something in mind. Yeah,
I know I can make a fucking banging cup of tea. Like my cup of tea, I can really make an incredible cup of tea. Like I literally, I think it's because when you're in the army, like your number, like you're like the private, right at the very bottom of the list. If you join like a big sort of like squadron, your job is tea. You literally become the tea lady, and you just make tea.
Really?
Yeah, that's all I did was make tea, and I literally figured out a system that I could like make this amazing cup of tea. And I'm not going to give you away my secrets because my secrets are my secrets.
No, it's your power. You can't.
Yeah. If ever we're around a kettle and a cup, a tea bag and some milk, I'll make you a cup of tea, and you'll see.
Yeah, interesting.
I know mine.
Cheers.
Cup of tea.
If it's something that's sort of real, not something I'm making up, I am really, really good at recognizing faces.
Oh,
I almost never forget a face.
That I'm jealous because I have such a bad memory for faces.
I was so I'll recognize people that I haven't seen since school, sideways, 50 feet away in a supermarket, and I'll be like, "That's so and so."
Wow.
In fact, I'll give you an example because it happened recently. I recently was rewatching Deep Space Nine, and the actor, what's his name now? Sherman Howard, who played Burb in Day of the Dead, the zombie Bub. You know the movie Day of the Dead. He's the zombie that he has a modicum of intelligence about him, and so he's in a lot of heavy prosthetics in that movie, and this was 1985, I think. Then, cut to the 1990s, he played a Klingon in an episode of Deep Space Nine, and straight away I was like, "That's the guy that played Bub in Day of the Dead." And I just
you were right. You remembered the face.
So much so, in fact, that I looked into it, and apparently there are people called super recognizers. You can be tested for it, and they use them. They use them in criminology. They actually used them in an event a decade or two ago. We had an incident in a Sheffield arena, and there was a guy who was on all over the news claiming to have helped children get out of the arena. But then it turned out he'd actually been in the arena robbing from the people who were injured.
Oh, no.
And they used super recognizers, these people who just don't forget faces, to watch the CCTV footage and confirm that was the guy creeping around on the CCTV footage to stealing.
That's practically a superpower, like in real life. That's really cool.
You ask me someone's name, I will struggle, as I've proved. But faces I don't forget.
Nice.
I bet they pay well as well. You should definitely do that.
I was going to say, if you ever get tired of DMing, you have a fallback plan there, Damien. Not that you ever will, but
there are, I think, there's a few experiments across the country where they're looking for people to come and be sort of tested, but it's Scotland or the opposite, all the way down south. So it'd be a bit of a trek to get there. But I've contemplated it a few times.
You should definitely. Nice. I'm sure it'll be like a lot of online stuff now. They don't want to pay for people's travel and shit.
I mean, I did take an online test, and I got a pretty darn good score on that. So,
damn. So in the same vein, and it's not really a cop-out answer, but it's what I can think of right now for my quote-unquote real-life superpower. I can make a decent tea. I can't make a great cup of tea. And I am terrible with faces, but I have a very good ear for voices. So much so that this happened the other day, and I'm very proud to share this stupid little nerd fact. I have as you probably all know, because I think I've mentioned it here, I have a minor obsession with the actor Keith David, and he I had a real world run-in with him at one point. I've loved him ever since Gargoyles and whatnot. I've seen a bunch of things that he's in, and probably have still not seen more that he's in, because he's done so much and he has a huge body of work. But as a kid, I used to be really into the movie Hercules, like the 1997 Disney animated film Hercules. And for years, the character in that movie, Apollo, who has maybe 2 or 3 speaking lines the whole film. His big one is at the very end where he's like, 3 cheers for the mighty Hercules. But it's throwaway lines. And the other day I was listening to a clip and remembering how I used to, and to this day still do, use a voice line of Apollo where they're getting ready to fight the Titans that are scaling Olympus, and he goes, on to battle. And I used that my whole life. Anytime like my friends and I would all go out for a pub or a drink or something, we'd say, on to battle. And as I'm listening to it in my car, I'm like, wait a second, is that Keith David? I'm pretty sure that's his voice, like from this little clip. And I looked up the casting, and sure enough, it was him, for a whopping 3 or 4 lines in that film. But I was right. So I have a good ear for voices, and I can pick them out. Anytime we're watching an animated film, the first time a character speaks, I'm like, I think I know who that is.
Brilliant.
Between the two of us, we could set up a crime-fighting organization.
And then have very good tea at the end of it, served by Rob.
Definitely. You two guys could like proper team up. Be like it'd be, what was that? Oh, film with it's a comedy. See No Evil, Hear No Evil with Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder.
Yeah.
Richard Pryor's blind and Gene Wilder's deaf.
Oh, nice.
And they're both witnesses to a crime.
Amazing.
Hears it, the other one sees it, but they can't it's really, really funny. But yeah, proper like old school sort of late 70s sort of humor.
Yeah.
Very, very good.
Team up.
Yeah, really, really good. Cool. Great. Well, what news have we got from the RPG tabletop world, Damien?
So I'll run through it real quick. There's not a huge amount today. A little bit more D&D. We'll get into that in a moment. We'll start here though with the non-D&D bits. Very exciting news. We'd mentioned it previously as it was announced, but it's now going live on Kickstarter in October. Discworld, the TTRPG.
Mm-hmm.
Terry Pratchett's Discworld Adventures in Ankh-Morpork is going to be live on Kickstarter October 15th, and is from Modifius, who I'm a big fan of. So if you are a fan of Discworld and TTRPGs, I believe this is the first tabletop RPG rendition of Discworld since the sort of mid to late 90s, I think I read.
Wow.
And they had to actually make an agreement with the estate of the late Sir Terry to get even a chance at doing it, and it seems they were successful. So one of the most interesting things I think about it, all of their sort of self-created tabletop RPGs, I believe, are all the 2D20 system, whereas it sounds like they've invented a new system for this game, which is designed to be based much more around the world and language and speaking than dice rolls and stats.
That's cool.
So
and a unique
amount of
approach.
detail on it, but Yeah, a new system, which is exciting.
Yeah, brilliant.
So
Is there a new, out of curiosity, is there a new system for the Cosmere RPG, the Brandon Sanderson thing
I believe
that was
Cosmere is
started?
like a D20 plus. It's like a sort of D20 system, but with a load of their own new bits.
New bits. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Another one, really quick, that we mentioned was getting a release was from Free League, which is the Electric State RPG, which is the one that was based on Simon Stalenhag's Electric State art book. He's a sort of pretty darn famous concept artist, very dystopian style. Tales from the Loop is based on his stuff, both the show and TTRPG. And now Electric State from Free League will be releasing retail October 1st.
Nice.
So a couple of new systems, couple of new non-D&D bits there to keep your eye on.
Right.
In the world of D&D, they continue to try and conquer the world. First off, the player's handbook is now getting into people's digital palms. People who have certain subscription levels on D&D Beyond can now read it. I'm lucky enough to have been reading it. I am very interested in seeing how it all pans out, and I'm pretty happy with it. And not to go into a full review, I'm mostly happy with it. I mean, I still have the same problems I've had. The players are going to be very powerful. They have a scope to have incredible amounts of utility, incredible amounts of shut down potential for most things you would throw at them. And our early look at the monster manual suggests that monsters are barely changing, and where they are changing, it's to make them less powerful, it seems. So that is my big concern. But that's a GM's concern. For players, this book is going to be incredible. And I will say, everything we've heard about layout, at least from how it is laid out on Beyond, because I haven't seen the physical book yet, it is great. It's really nicely put together. It's a great read. It's really accessible. Lots of really great terminology. A lot of things that have been explained better. Like a really quick example, the ability to hide in combat has often been a case of, well, what's the DC for that, and how hard is it for the enemy to see me? What do I need to hide behind? And this won't be verbatim because I don't have it in front of me, but it basically says you make a DC 15 stealth check as long as you have something to obscure you, such as fog or objects with 3/4 or full cover. And then any number that you roll above 15 becomes the DC needed for any enemy to spot you with an active perception check. So much better explanation. Whether you like it or not, it's a much clearer, better explanation of that action. And that seems to be sort of throughout. Although, having said that, also in the news, the book already has an errata.
Really? Wow.
It already has errata for it.
Is it on D&D Beyond, or did they publish it elsewhere?
I don't know if it is. I just saw the article earlier today.
I'm going to look that up.
Several minor updates as part of the 2024 handbook.
Wow.
I imagine if it's the digital copy, they'll just change the digital copy.
On D&D Beyond, you're probably right. Right.
But
I know the physical copies are already arriving in people's hands. A lot of my players were posting pictures even yesterday saying that their pre-orders have arrived. I wouldn't be surprised if my local, my Flags, my friendly local gaming store, has already picked up a couple of copies. I could probably go there right after this and probably pick one up.
Nice.
Honestly.
Why not?
I've got the limited edition covers of all three on pre-order, so I'm hoping some point in the week I'll get my player's handbook. But I've been reading it. The artwork is stellar. The layout is excellent. A lot of the changes are much clearer, much easier to understand, much easier to explain at the table really quickly. Having a rules glossary to very quickly access all of that is genius. So from a player's perspective only, it's, at least in my opinion, early impressions, very, very good. Cool. I'm sure there's options to fully break the game. In fact, I've seen an example already of how the game can be broken with a combination of spells to do.
Like what? What did you say?
It was a YouTube and TikTok star who I'm not a big fan of, but somebody sent me his video, and it was basically he cast conjure elementals, which
Oh,
allows
D&D shorts.
yeah.
Yeah.
Conjure elementals, and
Yeah.
which rather than summoning an actual elemental does additional damage, and then cast another spell which then buffed all their damage up, and it ended up equating to something like 300 average damage with the combination.
Surely conjure minor elementals has to be on this errata, because everyone has been talking about how it breaks the game because it's the scaling of the spell is too ridiculously powerful. I think it's like an additional 2d8 per level, but something about it makes it far more impactful. Everyone that I keep seeing says, "Oh, we're not going to go into that because you've probably heard all about it already." I'm like, "No, I haven't. I've just been hearing everybody say that. What's the brokenness of it?" But yeah.
It's because it adds damage to any damage that you do. So
Right.
anything that stacks damage on top of that, it becomes obscene. Oddly enough, from what I'm reading here, it doesn't look like that spell is included in what they've changed. The examples I've got here have been the giant insect spell getting a change, shields now requiring the utilize action to don or doff, Goliath's powerful build now specifies that it grants advantage on ability checks.
That was missing. I remember hearing that. Yeah.
True polymorph spell description no longer states that the spell effects end if its target's temporary hit points run out. So a few tweaks and changes. I'm reading here that they don't have a physical errata yet, which I imagine they'll hang on to until the physical copies are out writ large across the world, and they make presumably a few more changes, it sounds like. So they'll probably build it up a bit more and then release a proper errata for it. But digitally, they'll just change. It seems people are noticing they're just changing it.
You know, I'm looking at the spell Conjure Minor Elementals now that I realized I have access to the book on D&D Beyond, and it's actually very basic. It's strong. But it is very basic. It doesn't seem to do anything particularly special. It just is a lot of damage.
I think it's the combos that it allows is where it becomes a problem. As a spell
until the spell ends, any attack you make deals an extra 2d8 damage when you hit a creature in the emanation, which is a 15-foot emanation. This damage is acid, cold, fire, or lightning, your choice when you make the attack. And the damage increases by 2d8 for each spell slot level above 4. So yeah, I mean, you can stack that pretty high. So that's what an additional, do math, 20d8 if you're going if you're casting it at its highest level.
Yeah, then there's a crit
or 18d8.
Then on top of that, anything that allows you to add damage dice to what you're already doing as well.
Right. Just stacking with other stuff.
And I say, I don't know, I haven't checked the maths out myself, but this video implied that a combination of a sort of 5th and 6th level spell would allow for approximately 300 points of average damage.
Jesus Christ.
Which is bonkers.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So we'll see how much more they tweak.
Finally, sorry to interrupt you there, Damien. Has there been any at the core rules of D&D? Has there been any changes in there? Is there anything that's that?
Yes, a handful.
Yeah.
It hasn't changed the D20 mechanic, but it has. There are many smaller updates to the actual rules. I was pouring through the rules glossary, and there's exhaustion has changed completely. So, for instance, it still stacks like a stacking condition, but instead of having particular downsides like it does in the 2014 version of the rules, where level 1 of exhaustion is disadvantage on ability checks, level 2 is speed halved, level 3 is disadvantage on attack rolls and saving throws, etc. Now it's just a stacking negative penalty to any D20 roll you make. And there's actually a simplicity in that I really like, because there's not a lot of instances in the game where you get a numeric penalty to your rolls. It's always disadvantage on something else. So, for instance, if you're poisoned and you have disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls, but you also had a level of exhaustion, the poison condition only is half as useful, or half as dangerous, rather, as it was before. So with this new rule on exhaustion, I think I rather like it, because it's an additional consequence. So it's like a -1 and a -2 if you have 2 levels, and a -3 if you have 3 levels, etc. So I'm a fan of that, but that's also more number crunchy, and I know that harkens back to more 3rd edition 3.5 Pathfinder sort of play. which probably tells me what I would prefer. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. It is a little crunchy. That was my initial reaction. But when it's really only going to sort of a +5, and everybody knows that there's 5 levels of exhaustion. The previous editions, the problem was you would have a spell and then a magic item and an ability and another magic item and an effect, all adding these buffs and minuses that made the maths complicated. Whereas if you've
and you had to keep track of all of that. That was the problem, right?
So I think that's not too bad. Initiative, much simpler now. Rather than surprise no longer allows people to take sort of a free turn. In effect, it's now basically everybody that has surprise has disadvantage on initiative rolls.
Right.
So it speeds that up.
That also I like.
Yeah, it speeds.
I was looking at that rule and I'm like, and it doesn't lead into those weird conversations where like, well, do I count as, really I can't do anything for my whole turn and I just get my reactions back, and are they readying actions or are they surprised or like what that was so murky prior to this, and this is very simple. Disadvantage on initiative rolls, easy.
I can't believe the screen isn't coming out until the Dungeon Master's Guide, especially because they've introduced all the new rules in the Player's Handbook. That seems really annoying.
Doesn't it just? Welcome to the fold, Rob.
Welcome.
This is how we feel.
Why would they do that? It's like so you can learn the rules, but then you have to like try and remember them, and then you've got your screen in front of you, which is the old rules, and then you're gonna like, ugh. God.
I still think that my estimation on the fact that I think they just bit a little bit too much more than they could chew to get them out for the 50th anniversary is why they're in this murky release schedule. But early reactions of the book, I'm excited. Really, last 2 really small things. I mentioned D&D taking over the world. We've mentioned all the places D&D's cropping up, like Time Magazine and Hollywood Fan Fest events, and now it seems like they're getting very minor details on this, but they've referenced a live touring experience called the Immersive Quest in Toronto, which more details to come, but it sounds like it'll be maybe some sort of live, maybe a treasure hunt or live theater experience, something along those lines, which could be a lot of fun. I imagine it'll be expensive.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I need to go to Toronto.
Yeah. And they've also announced in collaboration with Dragon's Milk for the New Holland Brewing Company, Dungeons & Dragons is now getting an official stout and bourbon.
That's amazing.
It's going to taste rough.
Yeah. They've already announced crossovers with Lego, Converse, obviously still working a lot with Critical Role, Magic the Gathering is crossing over both ways. So they're taking over. They're taking over the world.
Taking over the world. Hollywood, Broadway. There's a lot going on with them. I know 20-Sided Tavern, their show, the off-Broadway show here in New York, just got announced as a tour in Australia. I'm not sure exactly what part, but that's been big news as well. It also is now starring a couple of guest stars, including Felicia Day.
Oh wow, really?
And the one apart from Matt and Brennan, the other DM for Critical Role, what's their name?
Matt, Brennan, and Abria Iyengar have all done.
Abria and Iyengar, she's in it as well, and a third guest of high fame. There's a lot going on that front, and it's looking pretty exciting.
Abria Iyengar.
Yeah,
Abria.
she's...
What a name!
It's Abria. Abria Iyengar.
I haven't seen a lot of her run games, but I know that she's done a fantastic job, and a lot of people are big fans of her as well. And Erica Ishii as well.
Have to lump with like Robert Bradley.
Yeah, imagine.
Oh, is it Erica Ishii? Yeah, she's does
Erica
a lot
Ishii. Yes.
She does a lot on Dimension 20.
Yes.
Yeah. Very cool.
Very cool stuff. And Felicia Day, the godmother of nerds, basically at this point.
Yeah.
I had a little something to add, which is not strictly D&D related, but is VTT related. There is a new online tabletop role-playing game which is on Kickstarter, exclusive to Foundry VTT. they are launching their effective new game and setting combo called Ember, which by all accounts looks really cool and really immersive in a way that it's trying to test, as far as I can tell, what limits a VTT can be pushed as a system. And it can get a little bit more number crunchy because it's doing all the maths in the background. So you don't have to worry about doing the maths on your own. It's exclusively meant to be played online. So this is not something you could, I mean, I'm presuming there is some sort of conversion, or there will be, where you can roll it out on a table if you really wanted to, but it's primarily designed with online in mind. And it says it's an unprecedented digital role-playing experience for Foundry Virtual Tabletop, designed for a game master and a group of players, 3 to 5 recommended. It is an imaginative and immersive open world setting featuring an epic length campaign, groundbreaking features, and game systems designed for online play. Great for fans of Baldur's Gate 3, The Elder Scrolls, Kingmaker, Pillars of Eternity, The Stormlight Archive, Rise of the Rune Lords. The way I can describe the cinematic trailer that was released for it, not only is it a system where you move tokens around on a map, it also adds a lot of immersive role play scenes in it as well, where you still get a lot of visuals while you would otherwise be doing theater of the mind stuff. And I think that's what it's there to help complement. So if, as you're sort of describing what happens in between moments, you can switch to another scene and have these very visual dynamics appearing, almost like a cutscene, or almost like those old Guild Wars 2 Magic the Gathering trailers for new decks and new storylines that have that sort of card stop motion animation style. Really, really cool stuff. I'm not doing it justice. I highly recommend you guys go and just watch the trailer for it, or I'll send you a link and you can all check it out. But it looks really, really sick.
It looks ace.
I'll check it out. Yeah.
And I'm just realizing this. It's in pre-alpha, and they have release dates for different episodes of Ember. So like story, it's obviously a very heavy story focus. Episode 1 was apparently released on Wednesday, September 4th. Episode 2 was released yesterday, the 11th, and next episode is 3, releasing on 18 September, which is pretty cool. And it has its own unique region. It has its own unique tokens and new art styles and a codex or various codices and area maps and character creation built into the system itself. So it looks really sick.
The token maker sounds pretty cool. The token maker isn't only for player characters. The game master can use it to craft infinitely varied NPCs or to randomize groups of enemies like bandits, undead, or pirates. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. A dynamic weather system where you don't even have to worry about deciding. The weather changes basically on its own. An integrated calendar system. And this was part of the trailer, I remember. It says the moons of Ember, because they show you like a galaxy map or a solar system map maybe, and you zoom out and it's this very unique looking basically outer space map. And the moons of Ember have a direct impact on gameplay. Certain gameplay events can only occur at specific lunar zenith, and some ultra rare events require a conjunction of multiple moons. What? That sounds awesome. Sold from that alone, you know.
Yeah, it's I mean, they've done well, haven't they, on their pledges? They've got what 235,000, is it?
Yeah.
342
USD. They are 328,453 out of their original $10,000 goal.
Wow.
And that's only with less than 2,000 backers. It's sitting right now at 1,775. At least here on the site that I'm looking at, with 21 days to go. So you got time.
That's incredible.
I'm gonna hit remind me.
Yeah, right. Which package are you gonna go for? Mm-hmm.
Oh, don't ask me that question. I can't tell you how much I'm spending on stuff. Yeah, but anyway, cool stuff to keep eyes on as D&D slowly takes over the world as well. Mm-hmm.
Indeed. That is the end of the news.
Sweet. Nice one.
Nice.
So you got any stories from this week in terms of your D&D escapades?
Ooh, Damien's nod and puff of breath of air and sigh.
Yeah, I'm yet to get to Fallout, but
Mhm.
I'll really quickly mention that last week they're currently at Good Neighbor. So if you know Fallout 4, you know Good Neighbor. Across the way from Diamond City, the sort of major populous area of that world, and it's winter. I've mentioned before, it takes place in a nuclear winter, and Good Neighbor wants the players to try and siphon some of the trade that's going to Diamond City into Good Neighbor because they're starving. They've got all the chems, but they don't have the food and water. So they need to get some trade in, and basically the leader of that community is saying to them, by hook or by crook, I don't care how you do it, that's up to you. We need some trade. Steal it, rob a caravan, make a deal with the higher ups. I don't care, just do it. And one of the players' sort of deep discussion was occurring over how they were going to do this, and one of the late suggestions was that they introduced the chems that Good Neighbor is famous for into the water system of Diamond City to make Diamond City dependent on Good Neighbor.
Whoa.
And I said
Villainous.
to them, I was laughing, and I said to them, in any other system and any other themed game, that would be the sort of suggestion where as a GM I'd lean back and go, oh no, how am I going to manage this? But in Fallout, go for it. Absolutely. If that's how you want to approach this situation,
wow,
go for it. Let's see how this pans out.
That is intense.
So,
man.
But my actual tales from the tables, I've got one for Monday and one for Tuesday, so I'll do one, and then you guys can sort of chip in, and then if we get a chance, I can do the other.
Okay.
Monday, Odyssey of the Dragon Lords, Greek myth inspired, epic. They're on a great trireme now. They are equivalent of Argonauts sailing the cerulean oceans of Thylia. They have a main quest island that they need to go to, but one of them is an Amazon. You can play Amazons in the game, and they come from the island of Themis. Sounds familiar, right? They do that a lot of little sort of vague changes to make it distinct. They're from the island of Themis, and they have to go there because the Queen of Themis has been deposed by some sort of ruling sisters who have now instituted worship of one of the bad deities in the campaign. They're titans in this case rather than actual gods, because the gods are super friendly and fallible because they're Greek gods. But the titans, they now have to worship the titans, and it's sort of mandatory worship. So things over there not so good. And an NPC that they've met who is deeply, deeply morally questionable, also has reptilian hair, said, I need to get to Themis because my sisters took over and I need to go sort them out so that I can now be the ruler. They did me over, they screwed me over. I want to go, get rid of them, I will take over. I'll remove the institutional worship of Titans, and I will be queen of Themis finally. And obviously, with an Amazon in the party, they were like, great, let's go do it. We need to sort this out because we're against the Titans anyway. Well, that fight ensued, and it took place inside a sort of subterranean temple inside a giant rock that's jutting out of the ocean. And they descended through, and minor spoilers for a sort of non-mainline story quest that's in Odyssey if you are playing it or running it. They descended down to find these pair of sisters who've taken over, only to discover imprisoned a young girl who the Amazon character immediately recognized because she looked an awful lot like the previous queen. Turns out she is the direct descendant of the Queen of Themis, who was
deposed
and taken out. But she's alive for some reason. They've kept her alive for some reason. So now, straight away when they went into the prison cells, this other NPC was like, you don't need to go in there. They're all murderers and liars and thieves. We don't need any prisoners. Let's just keep moving. Because she knows, I don't want you to find the actual ruler of Themis. So now they have two NPCs with them who they get on pretty well with, who each want. One less wants it and is owed it and the other wants it.
Wants
she
it.
wants to be the queen.
They're competing for the rulership.
They got into the fight with the sisters, and here's the sort of the spoiler, so I'll let you close your ears now for the sisters that are in there. If you're gone, good. They also have reptilian hair.
Shoot.
So there are 2 snake-haired individuals and a third snake-haired individual who is currently in league with the party, but they left the princess out of the combat, a room away, sort of said with a guard and said, stay there, we don't want you to get involved in this. And noticed that their other NPC, who wants to be queen, taking out their enemies and slowly making her way across the map back towards where she was. And they were like, stop her now.
Stop her now.
And so they cast Tasha's Hideous Laughter and have immobilized her completely. She's been out for a few turns. The session culminated in the Amazon character being petrified.
Oh, shoot.
A natural 1 on the saving throw. And it was kind of poetic because she was, she had just got into position in the doorway to protect the princess, weapon drawn, to stop anyone, good or bad, that would go through that door that would be a danger to this princess. And she was petrified in that guardian position.
Oh, shoot.
In her homeland. So now the players have to find, hopefully, a way to unpetrify her.
Always difficult.
It is, but they're also, the gods in this campaign are physical people who walk around and interact with them all the time. As is
very Greek myth. Yeah.
The gods are a mainline part of the story. You meet them, you talk to them. They have their own questionable foibles and sort of odd quirks and things about them. So they have godly help. So we will see whether that will be enough. But it was very, very dramatic, very poetic. They were sort of playing chess with their own NPCs to stop them from sort of finalizing their claim to the throne.
Good plans.
Yeah, it was really, really dramatic, really cool.
Sick.
Nice. Yeah. I've always had a question. This is probably a very dumb question. Why is it called Odyssey of the Dragon Lords? Who are the Dragon Lords in that campaign?
The brief skinny is that previously the Titans, Thylia is this sort of land of fae and cyclopes and giants and a very wild land that was settled by the mortal races, including the Dragon Lords, who were literal warriors on the backs of dragons. And they fought with the Titans. They all but obliterated some of the fae species and sort of settled the lands. And the Titans came along and said, no, and built their own armies up. And there was a war between the Titans and the mortal races led by the Dragon Lords, which culminated in gods descending from wherever they came from to make an oath of peace with the Titans to stop the conflict that would last for 500 years. And the campaign picks up as that oath of peace is coming to an end.
Right. Interesting. Okay.
And the Dragon Lords are all but gone now. That was 500 years ago, so they're all but gone. But there are still people trying to keep that alive. And, of course, as would be expected, it's hardly a spoiler to say that there are player options within the book to go down the route of trying to reinstate the Dragon Lords.
Dragon Lords. It's interesting that a story so very clearly based on Greek myths incorporates dragons so much. I think what's always kind of been the jarring sort of element for me, just hearing about it and not really looking into it of my own accord, was that it involved dragons, or what I thought would probably be a little bit more heavy on dragons. But it's the way you're describing it makes it seem like it's more in the history and what happened rather than the present. It's not like there's dragons flying around everywhere. So
there are, and I can say that because my players have seen them. I would honestly recommend at least reading it if you. I've got a PDF.
I've heard good things. I had a couple of players a while back that were in a different Odyssey of the Dragon Lords campaign, and they really liked it. So.
It's very good. It's very, very well written, very well put together. And
so it's not Vecna Eve of Ruin? Sorry.
I wish the people that wrote Dragon Lords
would have written Vecna.
Because I'm also
done a bang-up
reading
job.
Raiders of the Serpent Sea, which is their Viking and Norse inspired campaign, very akin to the structure of Odyssey, but with that flavor instead, and that is also excellent and highly thematic. And you want to be a Viking, this is the game for you.
Nice.
Well, when they release their Egyptian-inspired campaign, I don't know, someone else does an Egyptian adventure, somebody here, then let me know, and I'll be interested.
Working on it.
Yeah, nice.
JC?
Yeah, so I was thinking about it. I've had a handful of different things happen this week. I think one of the big ones is, as you know from kind of the ongoing story here, I have the private group, the one I have on Tuesdays. They're playing a campaign that I custom made called Secrets of the Fae, and I've run a couple of times in different iterations for different groups under different names. Rob, you probably remember it as the Eventide War, which is what I called it way back when.
Yep.
But that campaign has been going really well. They've actually introduced a couple of new players recently, which have been basically thrown into a trial by fire situation, because the original group of players have been dealing with a coven of 3 hags in an effort to claim one of the 5 primordial gems, aka the MacGuffins of the campaign, for the good of the realm that the hags have been hoarding and using to corrupt the land around them into basically an infinite swamp unless they're stopped. And they finally bested all 3 of the hags at their individual challenges. The Buer hag was a game of hide and seek. The green hag was a game of escape the boiling cauldron before you're boiled alive, cooking competition. And then the night hag was a literal draw the right card from the deck of many things. So keep drawing cards from the deck of many things until you get the right one. And they finally I know it's a terrible idea. It was great. We had a blast. And they beat them, but it turns out that one of the hags isn't a fae. In other words, the night hag is allowed to lie, because fae in my version can't lie. Of course, they can trick and beguile you and make you think one thing and something else happen, but a night hag isn't a fae anymore. They have long since become fiends. So she lied, and the emerald that she had promised the group is the fake one. So now they're on a quest inside the lair of the hags to find the real emerald, very much in their domain, very much being tested for resources. They've had encounters with aquatic ghouls that kind of came out of the swamps. They've fought a person who had been cursed into a sort of dragon flesh grafted monstrosity, so like a dragon-esque thing. They've been dealing with all sorts of little hag minions, red caps and scarecrows and whatnot. And last session was pretty epic, because as they were exploring the caverns, realizing they were low on resources and hit points and spell slots and everything, and no confrontation with the hags in sight, no emerald in sight, they were like, oh, if we continue exploring, we're going to get our butts handed to us. So they made a deal with a passing, very mysterious entity that can appear basically at will, even inside a hag lair, to recuperate all of their resources. More on that tricky deal later on. At a very weird price. He said, all you need do for me to give you all basically the benefits of a long rest is take this thorn and plant it upon the queen, the summer queen, Queen Titania. You don't have to stick her with it. Just make sure it's in her possession next time you have a meeting. And they're like, yeah, that sounds easy. No consequences. Nothing to read into there. Okay. Quick agreement. And they're fine. But then our druid noticed that because the hag's lair is the stump of a truly titanic tree that has probably been felled long ago. And a hollowed out stump is where they kind of made their lair. But at the very top of the stump is a giant nest of a creature from the Acquisitions Incorporated setting that I borrowed, called the Deep Crow, which is this like eldritch monstrosity conversion of a crow. It's like a multi-eyed, glaive-tailed, mandible-beaked crow, the size of a rock, if you know what that is. And they had seen a glowing green light inside the nest on top of the stump. And as the druid very bravely sent their rogue sent the party rogue to go retrieve it. The eggs were disturbed. The creature, the deep crow noticed, and it went and swooped down to attack. The rogue got away, the druid didn't, but the druid wild shaped into a giant eagle, escaped its clutches, flew away, fought some red caps, had a whole basically solo fight, and then as they were flying above, basically running out of resources and wild shapes, they noticed, they had repolymorphed into a giant owl by this point because they had lost their hit points. But as they were flying above the stump, they saw this strange hole in the stump emanating some more green light that they hadn't seen before. So they took a dive through it. And that's kind of where we left off to see where they land. Because, of course, the other emerald that they picked from the nest is the second fake that the hags have planted. So these hags are just screwing them at every turn, left, right, and center. But now we finally stumbled into a little bit of a secret that will lead them to a very interesting encounter, I think, which I'm looking forward to for next week. So I think that's my highlight. There's obviously a lot of other interesting stuff going on in the other campaigns, but that one, I think, takes the cake this week because it was a pretty epic druid solo fight. Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah. What about you, Rob? What games have you run lately? Anything fun?
Nothing recently. What did I do? Most recent game I did was the Enchanted Retreat, which I think I've already spoken about on here, haven't I? I think, haven't I? Yeah, where we did. It was basically Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. That was the setting.
I've always wanted to read that. I keep getting it from the library and then never having time.
I changed a lot of the rules around magic, so I made magic dangerous to use. So,
cool.
if every time they used it, they would get edged closer and closer to madness.
Oh wow!
Yeah. But if they had like a long rest, it would then reset itself, and then obviously all their spell slots would be back and everything else. But there's more of a The reason I did that is because in the actual TV show Jonathan Strange, all the books, magic is dangerous to use. So it's basically you're kind of like, I guess in a way, you're accessing the Fae in order to charge your magic. But because you're mortal, it's like, oh, they're using magic again, and it's like there's always a price. There's like a price that you pay. So it's kind of like a little bit like Call of Cthulhu.
I love that concept.
Great, isn't it? It's a great way of approaching it because magic is like, it should be dangerous to use. I think, you shouldn't just be able to, like, especially if you're early level characters, like you're level 1 to level 5, magic should come at a big risk because you're just about to, you want to make sure you get it right. Like the fact that you manage to like get your spells, you can cast your spells correctly every single time as like a level 2 just it doesn't seem right to me. It seems like, well, actually, no, you probably should have more
difficulty
to do it. Or like things go wrong and you end up casting the spell on yourself or your party members or something,
That's why Wild Magic Sorcerer to this day is still my favorite. You can make a Shadow Sorcerer, you can make a broken build, it doesn't matter. Wild Magic Sorcerer always holds a special place in my heart because of what can go wrong as you cast spells,
Absolutely. And with power comes great responsibility, right? So it's that whole wild magic thing I think is brilliant. Like the wild magic table is excellent. Like if you have that should be that everyone should have that who has magic. You know? And what I've never seen in any RPGs, which I think would be really cool, especially if like warlocks, for example. I think if you played a warlock should be really powerful, like really, really fucking powerful. But every time they use their powers, they lose a part of their humanity, and I
love that concept.
They edge closer and closer to evil, or to death, effectively.
Yeah, or madness, like you said earlier, right? Yeah.
Or they're slowly bringing in that like horrible entity that they're drawing their magic from.
Sure.
It's getting closer and closer to our reality every time they use their magic.
That's really cool. Or each spell weakens the barrier between us and the far realm or something. How strange would that be? Every single spell just puts another crack in that,
Yeah.
proverbial layer that separates us.
Yeah,
You guys are pushing me closer and closer to trying to convert Dark Sun from 4th edition to revised.
Do it. I was going to say, this is very. I was thinking Athos earlier, Rob, too, when you said it.
Yeah.
It's Athos in that sense is very consequential as well. There's a setting, an old setting for D&D for our listeners that don't necessarily know, called Dark Sun, where the world has become a wasteland because of the overuse of magic, the overdrawing of it. All life has effectively died, and magic is now controlled by sorcerer kings who are very few and far between, and the gameplay is very Conan the Barbarian style. It's very sword and sorcery, because magic is so rare and so difficult and so threatening that most people just rely on what they can scavenge from the wasteland, which is, swords and weapons that break because they're made out of inferior materials, and metal is difficult to come by, and a good sword is like the real treasure. And that's, I love the fantasy of Dungeons and Dragons, and to your point, Rob, I think there's very many different ways to play, of course, but in D&D specifically, it very much enables people to have the power fantasy, which is its own thing. But I feel like there's often a glossing over of magic items and magic in general, and people just kind of take these things for granted, and it always doesn't feel very special when you're awarding them something cool like a magic item, because they kind of expect it. There's the expectation to gain it as you level up, and that's because of the proliferation of video games that kind of have trained us to think that way, I think, and other, and a long history of D&D. But, imagine a setting where, casting spells has a dire consequence, or you're flirting with madness or some other grave sort of result, and finding magic items is rare, and that's what a Dark Sun campaign would be.
Yeah. And magic items are incredibly dangerous as well. Like they could be symbiote, like the shield in Descent into Avernus. That shield.
The shield. What's it called? The Shield of the Hidden Lord.
The Demon's
Spoilers.
Yeah.
Yep. Spoilers.
I won't
just
say,
FYI. Boom.
I won't say its other name. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But isn't that great? Like that whole concept of like it's an artifact that can potentially kill you if you use it wrong. Like it's just I just love that sort of shit. It's like, and I often wonder, like, whenever I've played with groups and they're just like, they just want to win. They just want all the power and they want to win. And that's just all they want to do. And it's like the mini-maxing players and all those guys, like, fine if that's how you want to play. But I just feel that they're missing out on something profound by dealing with the challenge and the
100%
that arise from having the ability to lose so much just to gain so little,
If you want an experiment
so much, it's so cool.
If you want to experiment in that, D&D is very much geared towards power fantasy. But I'm going to mention, I've mentioned it before, and I know if James was here, he'd be cheering to the ceiling in agreement with me here. But if you want that feeling of a much sort of darker feeling of characters just trying to make something matter in overwhelming odds, 10 Candles.
Oh yeah,
has that in spades.
I was just trying to remember the name of it. I knew there was Candles, but I've not played it. I do want to play it.
It's because the idea is, and it's not necessarily a spoiler, because it's the whole crux of the game, is that nobody survives the end of 10 Candles.
Wow. Damn.
Nobody survives the end of 10 Candles, and you build the threat of 10 Candles as you make characters. You don't. You get an idea of this. You can choose a setting, but in terms of what they are, the thing that caused the end of the world, you build that as you build characters, and it's all very improvisational as you go through the game. So there's no real major prep for it in terms of that, and the characters won't make it till the end. When the last candle goes out, which it will, that's the end of the world. That's the end of the characters.
Wow.
And at the start of the game, once you've made your characters, everybody records a little voice message, basically, of their character saying, sort of goodbye to the world.
Wow.
And at the end of the game, when the last candle goes out, the GM then plays all of those voice messages in the dark. And yeah, it's nowhere near power fantasy. It's an expression of sort of hope in the face of loss, and it's really, if you get the right group and you throw yourself into it, it's really profound. I'm going to run it. I always run for my friends here that I know that love TTRPGs. I run a load of horror themed RPGs around Halloween, and 10 Candles is one of them that I'm running this year. And I can't wait to play again because, man, it's so
guys.
profound.
Crazy pitch, because I'm fascinated by this concept. Next Rolldark GM's meetup event, we all played, like we have our retreat, we do our talking, etc. We do whatever we need to, and then 9 p.m. forward, we play 10 Candles. We find a space. Damien, you bring the rule set, or whoever wants to run it runs it. I just want to. I want to experience it because I've never tried it.
The book is available 30 quid at Zatsu Games by the looks of things in the UK.
Yeah, that is not that bad for its own role playing.
Might get it.
That's crazy.
What's out one person? Oh, bollocks.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Cavalry games, and it is just one person. Yep. Yeah.
And you play the entire session once you light candles as you build your characters. It instructs you when to do it, and then when the 10th candle is lit, you play the entire game only by the light of 10 candles. And whenever it's a D6 dice pool system, and whenever a dice roll fails, you immediately extinguish a candle and move to the next scene. And then at the start of that scene, the players get a chance to explain what happened in between those sequences.
Whoa.
And obviously, the more it goes, the more rapidly the candles start going out. Sure. And it even says if the candles go out by accident, if somebody sneezes and a candle or two blow out, that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Wow.
How many players is it?
You can feasibly play with quite a few, so 3 to maybe 6 or 7. But obviously, the more players you have, the quicker the game will go, because there's much more chance that you're going to fail at a dice roll, and therefore the candles will extinguish much faster.
Could we do a special podcast episode while we play it?
We could. It would be very hard to get the atmosphere right playing it digitally.
You need to see the visuals and
being in a room
in it, right?
Is rapidly getting darker, and then feeling it when it goes completely dark, and then hearing those voice messages in the pitch black. There's nothing like it that I've experienced in any other role-playing game.
Right. I kind of want to do a show of this, like, a Sleep No More-esque style live play experience where every room is a different candle or something like that. And then it just slowly gets darker.
For you guys in a heartbeat. I would do that. It's amazing.
That sounds so cool.
Much.
Yeah.
Sweet. Right, that's it. That's what we're doing then. Right.
That's it. Decided. I would do it.
Now in life. Sweet. Well, thank you so much, guys. That's the end of the episode. I think we'll wrap up there. For those of you who are on our Discord, you may be aware that we've got a raffle on this week, giving away the Alternative Cover Player's Handbook and a free ticket to Rolldark Fest on the 12th of October.
Woo! Come join us.
Raffle tickets are £3 each or £10 for a strip, but you have to be a Discord member in order to purchase them. I cannot provide the links here due to competition in the UK and gambling laws. Right. So basically go join our Discord, which you'll be able to do in the link below. So basically you click the link, then you join, then you buy the link, then you can purchase tickets. Ridiculous, but yeah, that's basically what you have to do. Cool. So great to chat to you guys, and you'll hear us next week.
Indeed.
Thank you. Hear you then.
Bye.